Hello, it's Bill, the Knee Pain Guru. Welcome to the
11th episode.
Dr. Beck. What?
11th episode.
11th episode. As Dr. Beck. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you, Bill.
How are you today?
I'm hanging in there.
Hanging in there?
For a Wednesday.
Yeah, you were in West Virginia teaching a class?
West Virginia teaching a class. Yes, indeed.
Tell us about it. Any highlights, anything that's sticking out for you?
I did not know that the Greenbrier Hotel had its own Amtrak station.
Wow.
Yes.
Amtrak station.
So all those filthy rich folks from D.C. can come down and stop right there at the hotel.
Wow. And what city is that in West Virginia?
Lewisburg.
Lewisburg. Oh, okay. Well, cool. Anything pain-wise, anything body-wise that insight you got from teaching this?
Seems like a lot of things were reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good. I feel like I was very blessed in my teaching because tensegrity and the way it works with the body was so reinforced over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And sequencing the body to help restore tensegrity was part of my education. And when I spend time around other osteopaths, I realize they did not have the same education. Mm-hmm. And it makes me feel very blessed.
Cool. And you were teaching osteopaths in this?
Yes.
Okay. Nice. You had osteopaths from all over the country, the world. How was that?
It was set up at the West Virginia school. So for students, residents, faculty, we had some people come in from out of state, nobody from out of the country.
Mm-hmm. It's probably a little touchy subject at the moment.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Oh, by the way, our suggestions or your suggestions last week for when people may
when you feel bad? Yes.
When you feel bad. I've been sending that out. That's been
good. Good.
Yeah, that's been a good good video on
most excellent.
As well as the feet. Over the past several weeks when we were talking about the feet and the ankles.
Yeah.
That's been super valuable too.
Awesome.
That's been pretty cool.
Awesome.
But today we got a different question.
Okay.
And this is from Nick. And Nick writes, I have been suffering for the past 2 years with unusual but very constant pain in my coccyx.
Okay.
To put it in practice, I can only lay down on my back for 10 minutes before it gets too uncomfortable that I have to roll on my side. Also, sitting on a very soft chair is usually a killer. After 5 minutes, it would start getting uncomfortable. If I sit on hard wooden surfaces and on my sit bones, then it's kind of okay. I have done 3 MRIs and everybody says I was physically fine. I have done 1 year of Chinese traditional medicine, several sessions with other alternative specialists, but nothing really helped. After 1 year, the pain is still there. It is a bit lower than 1 year ago, but it is here and it is super annoying as I can only sleep in one position. So now it's getting to the point when my hip is starting to not feel well. I am so aware I need to sort this problem as soon as possible before I pile more cascading issues. I was also told by 2 specialists it could also be an emotional blockage. I could say I am pretty fit. I stretch regularly, do some body weight and weight exercises as well. The pain is only present if I press there with my hand or if I lie or sit down.
Correct.
What do you think I could do more to try to find and eliminate the root cause of this problem? I think just turning off the pain here is not enough.
So I sent you on your text a picture.
Okay.
See if you can bring that picture up so that we can see it.
Let me share my screen here. Okay. This up. Okay.
That one right there.
Okay.
And although I can see it, can you make it bigger?
Yep. How about that?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so we start with the diagram on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And what you'll notice is, so we're looking at the sacrum. That's the triangular shaped bone. And
Right.
above it is the lumbar spine. The brownish things with the little bulges in them, that is the sympathetic chain. That's what they call it. So we have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
The sympathetic nervous system runs down the spine, and it is bilateral, meaning there's a left and a right side, except where they join in the middle, which is this thing called the ganglion of Impar. Yep. Okay. And a nerve bundle that is like the old-timey operators that you would call in, and the operator would say, what number would you want? And then they would plug in a cord to connect you. That's a good way of thinking about a ganglion. Mm-hmm. It basically routes nerve signals, okay? And so where it comes together at this ganglion of Impar is very important because it sits just inside the body. Now we go to the right side of the screen.
Okay.
Right where the sacrum and the coccyx, which is the tailbone, right where they connect.
Right there.
So think about sacrum and coccyx as a hinge, like a door hinge. This ganglion sits right inside at the angle that the hinge makes when it bends. Mm-hmm. So if you have coccyx, tailbone, which is normal, so it is not dysfunctional, it operates the way it's supposed to, the ganglion of Impar, and thus the whole sympathetic chain, is operating the way that it should. Mm-hmm. If you fall on your tailbone, have a baby, have other trauma which can affect your tailbone, and your tailbone curves inward. Now that's the most common dysfunction because we fall from the outside. So if we're looking at the right-hand picture, to the right of the picture is the back of your body. To the left of the picture is the front of your body. So when we fall, and we fall on our rear end, that tailbone tends to bend underneath. Mm-hmm. And it can put pressure on the ganglion of Impar. Okay? So that's our scenario for the trauma which creates our problems. It happens to be, again, right where the sympathetic nervous system connects. Mm-hmm. So if there's an issue here, your sympathetic nervous system is always activated. It's like you're ramped up and you can't calm down. Sleep becomes an issue. And overall, over a long period of time, your health becomes an issue. Because what we've done is we've activated this part of the nervous system, and it can't correct itself on its own. Okay? So this is what I heard when our person sent in the question was that, hey, you know what? If I'm hanging in space, if I'm standing, no problems. Mm-hmm. My tailbone is not pressing really hard on that nerve. But the moment that I try to lay down, the moment that I try to sit, I get pressure on this nerve, and then there's a problem. And then because the nervous system gets ramped up, it begins to affect my entire pelvis. My entire pelvis starts to lock up to protect what's going on in the sacrum. That's what I heard.
Yep.
Okay. So that's our setup for what I believe is going on. Now, treatment involves getting that coccyx, the tailbone, to come back to its normal location. And I'm going to go with easy and then complicated because there could potentially be two different answers.
Right.
There's a ligament, which there's a left and right side. So our ligament is vestigial for when we had a tail. Okay. And if you look at a dog's tail, your dog's tail can wag left and right, meaning that there have to be muscles on the left and on the right. So we have a ligament that's on the left and the right. And then on the underneath side, we have one ligament. So that basically we could wag the tail and tuck it underneath and do all the things that's supposed to happen.
Got it.
So if those ligaments are not damaged, then usually it's unwinding the coccyx, which I have pretty good success with doing external, that is no finger in the rectum.
Right.
Sometimes you need to put a finger in the rectum to be able to get inside and really get a good grip on that coccyx and unwind it. I would say it's more psychologically weird than it is painful or anything else. It's pressure. That's all you're going to feel. Okay. So that's if it's normal. You unwind the coccyx, 1 or 2 treatments, you're back to good. If there's been damage to the ligaments, then sometimes those ligaments can need to be injected. And that's prolotherapy. And basically what you would do is inject, get the ligaments to strengthen, unwind, then it stays in their correct place and the symptoms go away.
The prolotherapy would take place after the unwinding of the coccyx? Or?
If I knew there was an issue, I might prolo it first, and then in the same session, unwind it.
Got it.
So that the ligaments get to heal with the coccyx in the correct place.
Got it. Okay. Wow.
And that's what I think is going on with this patient.
Okay. So that's 3 ligaments that hold the coccyx in place. That's really interesting. I did not know that. Did you need this image anymore?
Nope, we're all good.
Okay, stop showing. And we are.
And if he's dealing with, let me say, more traditional medicine, what you can do is you can ask for a nerve block on the ganglion of impar. So what they would do is they would take a local anesthetic that's long-acting, like bupivacaine, and use an appropriate needle, and they would basically inject it right around this ganglion of impar, which would make it numb. And it might take, let's say, 2 to 5 minutes for it to actually start working. And then it lasts for hours.
Okay.
So what you would do is you'd say, oh, hey, now that I've got it blocked, let me go do the things that would normally trigger it. Let me lay down in the bed. Let me do the things that would normally cause it to flare up and cause me pain. And if the pain goes away, we've proven that it was the ganglion of impar that was causing the problem because we numbed it so it can't send out signals for a while. Then the block would wear off, let's say fully after a day, and then you're back to where you were before. We didn't do a treatment, but we proved what the problem was.
Got it. So that would prove that there's an impingement on the ganglion of impar.
Or at least an irritation.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm always careful with using words because people may take a different meaning than the one I intend. So if there's any pressure at all, that nerve can be irritated. Whereas to me, an impingement means it can't move freely. There's something holding it back.
Okay.
So I would say at the moment, we're just looking at irritation. That's all we know for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they had reached out to me, and I was in the area. We were working with the coccyx to unwind the coccyx.
Oh, cool.
However, the pain, the concern was they couldn't get the point on the pain because it was up underneath.
Yes.
And I think what I the perspective I wasn't coming from was grasping the entire coccyx, or
Correct.
grasping the coccyx to be able to work the range of motion in the bone in relationship to the sacrum to unwind it. So,
Yes.
yeah, totally get it. Well, cool. That's so that's a test that they can do. They're actually overseas. I have a little bit of background with this individual.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And
I mean, any traditional doctor should be able to do that.
sure. So they could do the test to see if it's the ganglion of impar,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and then test it out, and then go from there in terms of
Yes.
what would be the approach.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Let me see the questions. That was it from last week. That's what we got.
Cool.
Anything else you'd like to, patterns you're seeing in your practice or in society? That's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. Let me think about if I can answer the question as asked. I would say yes. So there was, at least in our circles, a famous osteopath by the name of Robert Fulford.
Okay.
And Fulford practiced in Cincinnati for much of his life.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up at a time when, I mean, so let's think he grew up in the 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So at a time when the world was undergoing big change. You know, the automobile was relatively new, steam engines were still around, and we were kind of in the middle of the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's interesting is his father taught him that if he could ever use a piece of equipment or a machine to make his labor less, that he should always use the machine. It just made sense. That philosophy has stuck with me. And so Dr. Fulford, when the soldiers went to war, basically what happened here in the United States is that the DOs weren't full-fledged doctors in the military yet.
Mm-hmm.
So the MDs left, and the DOs wound up treating the patients that the MDs left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fulford went from, seeing a few to seeing many. And the one thing that he said is, after the war, people changed and they were harder to treat. Now, he didn't elaborate, and he passed in 97.
Okay.
So there's no way of asking him what happened in his mind that made people harder to treat.
Mm-hmm.
But basically what he noticed is that the things before that seemed easier required more energy. And I am noticing that same trend with the global pandemic. That 2 years ago, people were easier to treat. And now it isn't that you can't treat them. It just is harder. Your brain has to work harder to figure things out. And you wind up putting in more effort to get the same results that you did 2 years ago.
Trauma is a tricky,
yes,
tricky customer.
Yes, yes, and I would say trauma tacked on to fear.
Oh, okay.
I mean, trauma is one thing. If you think about childhood and you skin your knee or you do whatever, I mean, you have a trauma. Mm-hmm. As long as you've got mom and or dad to come to and they're safe, you had the trauma and then you come back to baseline because it's safe. If you have trauma and you can't come back to baseline because you can't find a safe place, mm-hmm. Now you have one trauma stacked on top of another one,
mm-hmm.
And if day after day after day goes by and safety is still not present, now you've got potentially lots of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And my suspicion is that's what's underlying what I see.
Mm-hmm. No, that's, yeah, I could totally see that. It spirals without any sort of reference point or baseline.
Correct.
Spiral. We actually have another question that came in, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I'm curious as to, do you have any suggestions from your perspective on how someone can begin to establish that reference point or establish that safe place?
Many, but we'll start with the principle behind it.
Okay.
What we have to do is figure out what safety looks like for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you grew up in a place where you had loving parents, and you may not have known this at the time, but let's say financial stability. So you always had food on the table. There was always a roof over your head. There was maybe always enough money for you to go do the activities that you wanted. That is very different in the setup alone compared to someone who may have bounced from foster home to foster home and never felt loved.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the background is we have to find out what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, that can be journaling, simply writing their thoughts down. For others, it may be a weighted blanket where they feel like they're getting the pressure of a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And, for others, it may be a walk in the woods, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keeping in mind that that's the principles behind it, what we want are things that are relaxing to the nervous system. So I won't say it doesn't happen, but it's rare that an MMA bout, for example, would be something that's relaxing to the nervous system. Mm-hmm. Because by definition, it cranks the nervous system up.
Right.
Okay. So typically we're looking at things that if we approached it from a Chinese medicine side are more yin in nature. So they're more feminine, they're slower. Mm-hmm. And it could be things like spending time at the lake, because the lake is a large body of water that doesn't move quickly. So it's got a lot of yin energy. Mm-hmm. It can be time in the moon or the moonlight. Mm-hmm. Again, yin energy. It can be using essential oils that are based around evergreen trees. So fir needle, cedarwood, sandalwood, that are very grounding. And you could put those on your feet, for example, or smell them, put them in a diffuser. What I've found is if you take a drop of essential oil and you put it on a tissue, right? So a Kleenex, basically, if we're going brand name, and you place that underneath your pillow. What you do is you don't get the oil on your sheets, which makes it easier to clean, but you still get the diffusion. And then theoretically, you can use that over and over again. Mm-hmm. Hugging a tree, for example, because trees are rooted in the soil. And so they're very yin in nature. So sit under the trunk of a tree and read a book. Cold water running over your body. And so don't jump in because it's a shock. What I would suggest is start off with whatever temperature you start with and start chilling it down slowly. Mm-hmm. But cold water will also help to take away, we call it bad juju, bad energy. Mm-hmm. So it will help calm your nervous system. Okay. There are many, many more, but the idea is we want something that works for you, that calms you down. And then it should be, at least at the beginning, so that your body can get used to it, it should be a daily routine that you do for 3 to 5 minutes by the clock every day. So you don't just go, I did something. You can go, okay, so for 5 minutes, I've got to sit down and do whatever it is that I'm going to do. Let's just say it's sitting by the lake. Can't move for 5 minutes, no matter what happens. And that in itself, if you're ramped up, if you're traumatized, because your body wants to run away, that can be a challenge.
Yeah. I'm starting to think of a million things. You know, I would sometimes jump in the shower. Rivers around here I get into, especially this time of the year, it's starting to get chilly.
Yeah.
Just getting out in nature, going for a walk in the woods, getting in the woods, going camping, sitting by a fire. I'm like thinking of all these different things to kind of get that reference point to calm your nervous system down.
Yep.
Yeah, I could totally see that, and it makes total sense what Fulford.
Yes, Fulford. Mm-hmm.
Identified, and that he would have been working after the First World War. Then
Second World War. Second World War. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We have a question that came in through Facebook from Kathy.
Perfect.
She writes, what can it mean if you have muscle spasms in the leg where you have knee arthritis? I also have occasional sciatica issues. I've been told I have spinal cord damage or MS, but no MRI has been done for the spine. My spinal x-rays show degeneration of the cervical and lumbar spine with calcification.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me take a deep breath here.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Okay, so first of all, let's back up and go over our terms. So, spinal degeneration. If we start with the spine as a stack of blocks, and that in theory, as we, let's say, reach teenage years, those blocks have definitive edges at the places where the bone ends and changes angle. Degeneration means that the edges look different than they did when you were young. Okay. Arthritis means that a joint surface is no longer smooth. Arthritis is something that you can feel with your hands, but technically can only be defined with an x-ray because the joint has to change shape. You can feel it on the outside. You can go, I really suspect this is arthritis. Has to be confirmed with an x-ray. So now, when it comes to degeneration, if the bones themselves degenerate, they lose or can lose height. If they lose height, are they pressing against a nerve? And if they're pressing against a nerve, is that causing your problems? Okay. So I'm going to go through this and kind of now dissect it now that we've got our terms here. Muscle spasms in the leg where you have knee arthritis. So again, semantics. Arthritis is bone. Bone is not muscle.
Right.
So these two things are separate for me. Muscle spasms usually is a magnesium deficiency. That's the most common thing. And what I recommend is a topical or a skin applied magnesium. You can make or buy a magnesium oil, or you can get a magnesium lotion. The magnesium oils typically are a little, or they can make the skin sensitive. Day one is usually not a problem. By day 3, your skin is sensitive. So you can cut those oils with olive oil or jojoba or coconut, make them a little bit less irritating to the skin. Or you can use a magnesium lotion. And the lotion that I most often prescribe for my folks is made by a compounding pharmacy. Okay, so they take a lotion and then they mix in the magnesium. And so when you put the lotion on, the lotion delivers the magnesium through the skin. It's not irritating. So that's the first thing that I would try. Second thing about muscle spasms is if the fascia is not able to release, it will cause spasms when the muscle tries to let go. So it's also possible that what's going on here is tight fascia, and it could be tight fascia and a magnesium deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then knee arthritis. Knee arthritis means that the mechanics of the knee haven't been right for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's what can cause or allow to happen arthritis. Sciatica occurs further up. So that is lumbar spine and or pelvic dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
So between knee arthritis and the sciatic issues, you need to see somebody who's skilled at body work and who understands what's going on. My first go-to would be an osteopath, but that's because I am one and I'm biased in that bent.
Mm-hmm.
Been told she must have spinal cord damage or MS. Now, this is where I scratch my head sometimes because I don't understand how the medical system is supposed to work. MS is something that, again, is diagnosed typically on a brain CT because there are things that you see that define MS. So if you've been given this diagnosis of spinal cord damage, but no one's done the correct images, then it's a guess. And it needs to be followed up by appropriate imaging to prove what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that with what she's describing here, sciatic issues, knee arthritis, it's probably mechanical, or at least there's a mechanical component, and it may be a relatively large mechanical component.
Mm-hmm.
Get those things to get sorted out, and your diagnosis of spinal cord damage and or MS may go away because the symptoms disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Spinal x-rays show degeneration of the cervical and lumbar spine with calcification. Calcification means that the body is trying to shore it up. That's what it means. It needs something thicker to help resist the forces. We talked about tensegrity. So degeneration of the cervical and lumbar spine means your tensegrity system is not working correctly because when it is, the body is a self-supporting structure.
Mm-hmm.
So we go back to treatment from someone who understands how the body works.
Okay. I like how you broke that down.
Thank you.
Makes it clear. And that's what I've noticed is that trauma can kind of jumble all that together.
It certainly can.
It does. It's fascinating how the psychology of the human mind works.
Yes.
And they want to, it's like in there and it's accessed randomly. And then it's like, what? Like put all together in a stream of consciousness that is sometimes jumbled and disjointed because they're just trying to sort it out, trying to make sense of all of it.
Yep.
So, nice job, Kathy. Okay. That's what we got for today for episode 11.
Cool.
How about that? Okay. Make sure if you have questions, you can type those in the comments section. We'll use those on future videos. You can also go to the link that's also in the description at the ComellaFoundation.org website, Ask Dr. Beck. We host these every Wednesday, and Dr. Beck will answer your questions, even the complex, tricky ones. Actually, the complex, tricky ones, I bet Dr.
Those
Beck
are much more fun. Yeah.
They're much more fun. He's like the body detective, which is pretty cool to see the thought process as you go through that. Let's see. Our next one's going to be next Wednesday. We're going to be into October already, October 6th.
Wow. Awesome.
Ready. 2021's 3/4 over.
I know.
Oh, wait a minute. Another something came in. Okay. Thank you, Bill and Dr. Beck. Love these podcasts. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, cool. Well, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to the Comella Foundation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications for future videos. And anything else you have, Charlie, before we wrap it up?
That's it, brother. Hope everybody has a good week.
Yep, you too. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you on next week's episode number 12. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Take care.